Canada's Auditor General is warning that the F-35 fighter jet program is turning out to be far more expensive than originally promised. At the same time, the United States has cautioned Canada against walking away from its purchase of American-made F-35 fighter jets, signaling that there could be serious consequences if the agreement is abandoned. The review of the F-35 acquisition is still ongoing. Officials say it will take as long as it needs to take, because this is a major procurement decision for Canada and they want to get it right. But how could anyone have seen this coming? In March 2025, Ottawa did something almost nobody expected. Just as the global defense community assumed Canada was fully committed to the nearly $30 billion F-35 program, Prime Minister Mark Carney ordered a full-scale review of the deal, not because of domestic political pressure, not because of infighting inside government, but because of a warning from Switzerland, a country that had already lived through a painful experience with the very same aircraft. The story begins with the numbers. In 2022, Canada estimated it would spend 19 billion Canadian dollars to purchase 88 F-35 fighter jets. Fast forward 3 years, and that number had already climbed beyond 27.7 billion. Once hidden and secondary costs are included, projections suggest the total could reach as high as 33.2 billion. But behind those figures sits a much deeper question. Is Canada on the verge of repeating a mistake that other countries have already paid for? According to Canada's 2025 defense budget report, the real cost of the F-35 program has risen by nearly 50% compared to the original estimate. That initial $19 billion projection has ballooned to $27.7 billion, and that still excludes roughly $5.5 billion required for infrastructure upgrades. Both Cold Lake and Bagotville air bases require extensive reconstruction. New hangars must be built, specialized electrical systems installed, highly classified security equipment added to meet the F-35's strict requirements. And the problem goes far beyond money. The Royal Canadian Air Force is already short on pilots. It lacks sufficient storage space. It is even short on technicians trained to handle the F-35's complex maintenance systems. Defense analysts have warned that even if every aircraft is delivered on schedule, real operational availability could reach only 50 to 60%, far below accepted combat readiness standards. Then Switzerland entered the picture like a cold shock. In 2021, Switzerland approved a contract to purchase 36 F-35s at a so-called fixed price of 6 billion Swiss francs. The government assured voters the deal was transparent and tightly controlled. But within just 3 years, additional costs had surged from 650 million to 1.5 billion Swiss francs. The reason? Hidden fees, long-term maintenance expenses, software upgrades, contract clauses that were barely noticed when the agreement was signed. But what truly shook Switzerland wasn't just the money. It was tariffs. In February 2025, the U.S. administration imposed a 39% tariff on Swiss exports, the highest rate applied anywhere in Europe. Analysts widely interpreted the move as economic pressure, using trade to reinforce leverage over allied defense decisions. Switzerland plunged into political turmoil. Public anger exploded. Lawmakers demanded full investigations. Confidence in the F-35 decision collapsed entirely. Ottawa was watching closely. And that's where a familiar name from Sweden began to surface. Saab's Gripen. The Gripen was not new to Canada's discussions. It had appeared in earlier evaluation rounds but was consistently dismissed as inferior to the F-35 in raw capability. Once cost became the central issue, however, everything changed. Defense analysts ran the numbers again, and the results surprised many. The Gripen's life cycle cost is roughly 60% lower than that of the F-35. Each F-35 flight hour costs between $35,000 and $47,000. The Gripen operates at closer to $8,000 per hour. Readiness rates also told a different story. The Gripen routinely maintains availability above 85%. Many F-35 operators struggle to achieve 30 to 50% due to maintenance complexity. But what truly captured Ottawa's attention wasn't just the lower price. It was performance under Canadian conditions. The Gripen is designed to operate from runways as short as 600 feet, including austere Arctic airstrips where the F-35 cannot function without extensive infrastructure. It requires just 4 technicians for basic servicing. It can operate in -40-degree temperatures without specialized hangars. Most importantly, Sweden is open to technology transfer. This is the core difference between the F-35 and the Gripen, not in the air, but on the ground. Saab is proposing a full industrial offset package. For every dollar Canada spends, Sweden would reinvest that amount directly into Canadian industry. Aircraft assembly would take place inside Canada, generating an estimated 10,000 direct and indirect jobs. Technology hubs would be established in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, focusing on maintenance, cybersecurity, and sensor development. Crucially, Sweden is prepared to transfer intellectual property rights. Canada would gain the ability to upgrade, repair, and develop systems independently, without needing approval from a third party. The F-35 operates very differently. Every software update, every weapons integration must be approved through Lockheed Martin and the Pentagon. Still, this proposal faces strong resistance from the Royal Canadian Air Force. Senior commanders argue that operating multiple fighter platforms doubles training, logistics, and maintenance costs. Each aircraft type requires its own training pipelines, spare parts systems, and specialized technical crews. In high-intensity conflicts where the F-35's stealth and network integration excel, the Gripen cannot match it. "We need a unified force, not an aircraft museum," one defense official reportedly said behind closed doors. Industry experts pushed back. Several G7 nations already operate mixed fleets. France flies both Rafales and Mirages. The UK fields Typhoons alongside F-35s. Sweden itself maintained Gripens alongside older aircraft during transitions. The real issue, they argue, isn't fleet diversity. It's dependence on a single supplier. Economic analysts add that even dual training systems cost far less than total reliance on the United States, especially over the next 30 years as Washington increasingly uses defense contracts as tools of diplomatic and trade pressure. Which brings us to the central question. Is Canada buying fighter jets, or is it building a defense industry? This decision goes far beyond choosing one aircraft over another. It will define Canada's strategic identity for the next 3 to 4 decades. On one side stands the F-35, unmatched stealth, advanced combat integration, and deep alignment with US and NATO systems. But that power comes with complete dependence. Dependence on Lockheed Martin for software. Dependence on the Pentagon for operational access. Dependence on supply chains that can be weaponized politically. On the other side is the Gripen, not the most powerful, not the stealthiest, but offering something rare: autonomy, ownership of technology, control over deployment, freedom to modify systems without external approval. Along with that comes a domestic aerospace industry, thousands of jobs, research centers, and long-term self-sufficiency beyond the influence of any superpower. Experts say this is not a simple right or wrong decision. It is a choice between two defense philosophies. One prioritizes integration into the world's strongest military ecosystem, trading independence for maximum capability. The other accepts technical risk in exchange for sovereignty and long-term self-determination. If current trends continue, Canada could become the first G7 nation in a decade to openly reconsider its commitment to the F-35. Not because the aircraft is flawed, but because the cost of dependence may have crossed an unacceptable threshold. Switzerland's lesson is not don't buy the F-35, it is understand exactly what you are buying. Not just the jet, but the political, economic, and strategic system that comes with it. And the final question every country must answer: is a fighter jet merely a weapons platform, or is it the foundation of national capability? Canada hasn't answered yet, but the world is watching. If you want more deep dives into defense policy and technology strategy, like and subscribe. Every interaction helps us keep exploring the angles most people avoid. This video is based solely on publicly available information and contains no classified material. All references to nations, companies, or individuals are for analytical context only.